What we saw initially was the good cop, bad cop routine, in which the United States was playing the good cop by engaging Iran in talks, and all the while Israel was giving threats of taking military action, strong military action, to destroy the nascent Iranian nuclear capability. In fact, this good cop, bad cop routine was used to achieve surprise. Iran thought that one day before the talks were scheduled between America and Iran, Israel would not strike, but it did, and it caught a lot of the top Iranian military leadership together, huddled in conferences, etc., and was able to do a fair amount of damage. So far, what has the Israeli strategy been? The Israeli strategy has been to carry out a surgical strike against Iran's nuclear capability, nascent nuclear capability. To that extent, it has hit Natanz, the nuclear enrichment site. It has hit many weapon fabrication laboratories and other experimental laboratories in close by around Tehran complex. It has also primarily hit at command and control targets. It has eliminated a large number of Iranian senior military officials, which include the head of the IRGC, the head of the Iranian army, head of the Iranian Air Force, and their chief of intelligence. Now, these are very severe losses in terms of leadership. Command and control attrition has been highly effective, to the extent that Iran has now ordered that none of its top commanders will be carrying mobiles, because they have been tracked through their mobiles and hit with great amount of precision. To start with, the Israelis had carried out massive standoff attacks with about 200 of their F-35 stealth fighters, F-15E Eagle jet fighters. These had fired cruise missiles, standoff cruise missiles, without entering Iranian territory. In the phase 1, they had carried out SEAD, suppression of enemy air defenses, in which they had knocked off the S-300 missile batteries of Iran, which have not proved very effective. Let's not forget that even in Pakistan, the S-300 equivalent, the Chinese HQ-9 and 16, were also proved to be highly ineffective. So they have suppressed Iran's air defenses, and they have now gone in a very big way to tackle the targets they have designated, namely command and control attrition, 2, enrichment facilities, nuclear fabrication plants, workshops, and research facilities. They have also gone in for hitting the energy infrastructure, and they have largely hit the storage for local in-house consumption, because should they go for Iran's export, that will be regime threatening, life threatening for Iran, and it could force Iran to widen the conflict by spreading the war to the Middle East, as I shall recount in detail later. For the time being, this has been the Israeli strategy: precision strikes, standoff strikes, and they have been fairly successful. Iran has retaliated by firing off its hypersonic ballistic missiles, and these have managed to penetrate the layered air defenses of Israel's Iron Dome, right? The Iron Dome, as this is a layered air defense of 4 layers. The closest layer is the Iron Dome itself, 50 to 60 kilometers, normally used against rockets and mortar bombs and things like that, which is a tactical in-house defense. Then comes the David Sling, which is medium range, and then comes the equivalent of the Barracks we have jointly developed with Israel, India has developed, and then comes the Arrow 2 and the Arrow 3 missiles, long range, coupled with the American Patriots and THAAD for terminal ballistic air defense against incoming missiles. Now, the simple fact is, these have been still quite effective, but not at all, by no means 100% effective. 7 to 8, even 9 to 10% of the Iranian missiles have gotten through this time. And this is for the first time that we have seen images of very disturbing levels of destruction in Israel proper. Iran claims to have hit the Ministry of Defense headquarters in Tel Aviv. It has also hit the Mossad headquarters and the 8200 intelligence gathering unit in the Golan Heights. Now, we have seen lots of images of a number of Israeli civilian targets getting hit, multi-storied buildings, and the damage has been pretty extensive. So far, the known damages are Iran about 225 civilians killed and about 1,250 odd wounded. In Israel, the losses till last night were supposed to be about 25 killed and about 592 wounded. This is the first time that Israel is being forced to pay such a heavy price, and given their thinness of the Israeli population, it is debatable how long can even Israel put up with this level of losses, because so far Israel has been hit with just about 350 ballistic missiles. Iran has about 3,000 plus ballistic missiles and many more drones. So this can continue for a number of days more. Israel at one stage was saying that it would go in for at least a 14 to 15 day long air campaign to impose a deterrent level of damage on the Iranian nuclear program, as also put heavy amount of damage on the Iranian command and control apparatus, their top nuclear scientists, etc. So, so far we don't see any signs of both sides stopping. Iran is continuing with its air attacks, standoff air attacks, and Iran is continuing to retaliate with its ballistic missiles. So, which way do we see this heading? What are Iran's response options? One is to sue for peace, because Iran knows that it lacks the air defenses, it is defenseless as far as protecting itself is concerned against Israeli air attacks. Therefore, it may be very intelligent choice for Iran to now sue for peace, because if this war proceeds and if America also joins the war, then Iran as a state will possibly pay a very heavy price, may even cease to exist. The problem with that is Iran's counter response to such a devastating strategy is to widen the war. And to widen the war, all Iran has to do is to target the oil facilities in Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, to target the oil tankers in the Gulf of Hormuz, and already the price of oil is gone up by 7%. It's already gone up by 7%. Then it could go through the roof and cause a recession in the entire global economy per se. Matlab, Iran's would be that we will go down, but we will take you all with us. I don't think it would be a wise strategy on the part of the United States or for Israel to push Iran to those levels of desperation. And it is also a moot point whether at some stage Russia or China would like to intervene or may want to intervene. That now remains to be seen. The G7 has gotten together and defended Israel's right to save itself from any nuclear threat, and to that extent they have endorsed the actions of Israel. Iran seems to have very few friends. Amazingly, Pakistan has jumped into the fray. Pakistan has jumped into the fray, and there were some statements that the Iranians quoted Pakistan as saying that if Israel uses a nuclear bomb against us, Pakistan will attack Israel with nuclear weapons. Pakistan was in great panic the next day because it knows that Israelis are no Ahinsawadi people. Benjamin Netanyahu was on record as saying that two countries they will not accept having nuclear weapons. One is Iran and the other is Pakistan, because these two countries do not follow normal rules. So what could be Israel's further strategy? Israel will try and decapacitate the Iranian nuclear program, but it cannot inflict damage of a permanent sort, because for that it needs the deep penetration bunker bombs, the mother of all bombs, which only the United States has, and that can only be delivered by the B-52s or the heavy bombers. It cannot be carried by the fighters with the Israeli Air Force, either F-35 or the F-15. So that would entail the entry of America, and that will take it escalated to an absolute different level altogether, a total panic level as far as Iran is concerned, and Iran could then well decide that its only last chance is to widen the war, spread it so much and cause the rest of the world so much pain that they intervene and try and prevent further escalation, because that would cause damage even to the American economy, which is already passing through a bad patch because of the war of sanctions and tariffs. So Israeli strategy is very definitely to impose a level of setback onto the Iranian nuclear program, that at least for the next 4, 5, 10 years Iran is not near a nuclear capability. But if the level of damage is not very significant, then Iran could recover and Iran could easily rebuild its nuclear capabilities 3 to 4 years down the line. So will that entail repeated Israeli strikes, ceasefires, and then spurts of war in which Iran regrows its nuclear facilities and Israel tries to strike it down for the next 4 or 5 years? Are we going to see an endless cycle of violence, or as Israel is saying, it is asking upon the United States to join and finish this once and for all? Is the United States keen for a wider escalation of the conflict caused by a desperate Iran targeting oil as a weapon, weaponizing the oil and trying to damage the entire global economy, and thus put pressure on all sides not to escalate beyond that point? America seems keen to use the Mutt and Jeff routine, the good cop, bad cop routine, with Israel playing the bad cop, and try and get into an agreement with Iran. Try and get into an agreement with Iran and end the conflict. So Pakistan, we have seen, has been very quick to issue denials, very quick to back off, because it is very clear to Pakistan that even as far back as 1984, Israel had requested India to provide base facilities from which its fighters could destroy the Pakistani nuclear program. For some strange reason, we backed out then, Mrs. Gandhi backed out then, and that was not done, and we have created a problem for ourselves. But it may now happen that India and Israel may have to join hands, possibly along with the United States, to defang the nuclear capabilities even of Pakistan. Like Netanyahu said, these are two countries that do not play by the normal rules, Iran and Pakistan, and will both have to be denuclearized. The world is just not prepared to accept a nuclear Iran. It has lived so far with a nuclear Pakistan. But the way Pakistan is going, these